And with that, we are live with another edition of the Astro Weather, and I am your Astro Weatherman, Robert Phoenix. And just in case you're keeping score at home, I did make it to the gym again this morning. Me and the old heads hanging out at the gym in the morning. There's some young people there too. And you know what? I got to give these people credit. They're getting up. They're going to this place. It's dark. It's cold, right? And they're taking care of their bodies, and I wholly support that. I mean, because for me, cruising around Kerrville is kind of like looking at the ghost of Christmas future in a lot of ways, right? Like, no, I don't want to look like that. Get back to the gym. God bless you, but that cannot be my future. Anyway, how is everybody? Let's see who we have here. Got a nice crowd brewing. Good morning, pot of coffee. There's my man, DJ Mike. What's going on, brother? It is Thursday. The lovely Pedrita Pebbles. She's here. Let's see, who else? Elizabeth Bryan. Good morning, Elizabeth. Susie, born in Fontana, not Montana. Susie, born in Fontana. She's with us. Always a delight to have Susie Gemini here. Tom Jordan, hopefully still celebrating, still basking in the glow of his solar return. Soul Traveler is with us. Hello, Soul Traveler. Thank you for stopping by. Crab Gemini, good morning back at you. Dave Sullivan's here. So is Dorian McLean. Yes, hi, Dorian. This is a image from West Virginia, by the way. So we got West Virginia representing in the house. There she is, the lovely, intelligent one, Dr. Joan S. So I had this odd thing happen this morning. We were talking on the phone, right? And I started to talk like Ringo Starr. And then all of a sudden, like maybe, I don't know, 30 seconds later, a picture popped up on her phone with me and this dog that I had for about a week. It was one of those Belgian Malinois where I was really kind of going for it. And his name was Ringo, right? And so we're like, oh, wow. Did the phone understand that I was talking like Ringo? Or did they just hear the word Ringo? And how much, and this is interesting too, right? Because there's no kind of text associated with that picture that identifies the dog as Ringo. Anyway, it was just a little weird. But we've come to expect these things with the all-seeing ear or all-hearing ear. Let's see, Misbehaving 2 is here. Does Misbehaving 1 know where you're at? Lisa Ann White, she's here. Hello, Lisa. Joe Lipke, let's go. I'm with you. Katie Cat, Road Trip 1981, Double K, Catherine Kramer. Slot Bunny, hello, Slot Bunny. Scuba Kell's here. Speaking of Kelly and the Kids. Kelly and the Kids, that new band that is taking the world by storm. Maria de Ange, yes, she is here as well. Coming in from France. From lovely Massachusetts, it's Sandra Jackshaw, looking buff. Oh, man. I got a long ways to go, Sandra. Long ways to go. It's like when you stop for a while, it's hard to get that momentum back. At this stage of the game, it's a battle against gravity. Moniz Phoenix, what's happening, Moniz? Hinterlanders, Amy Gill. Let's see. Katie's here. Hi, Katie. Janine. PSO, Maya Rose, Jay. We got a great house today. Steve, Zaralath, the Immortals with us. What's going on, brother Steve? Harriet Bowie. She's here. Lynn Stoles is here. Who else? Melissa Stanton. Hi, Melissa. It's a great day already. I love that. Janet Nepal, 2 degrees in eastern Idaho. That's pretty real. That's cold. I remember the first time I experienced something like that. It was in Eastern Washington, and it was 4 degrees. And I've been driving I started in Seattle, went through the pass, and the pass was really treacherous on that trip. There were all these cars that had flipped over, right? And I'm like, oh man, this is kind of heavy. It snowed a lot. And as I got through the pass and I headed to Eastern Washington, it was bright and sunny, but I had no idea what the conditions were like until I stopped for gas. And I went out and they had the temperature on the gas station. And it was 4 degrees and it felt like 4 degrees. Nora Rashid checking in from Albuquerque. No Breaking Bad here. That was a boon, though, right, for the local economy, those 2 series. Choose Love from Oregon. Morning work is a great way to start your day. Well, I hope so. It's a great thing about it. I don't have to worry about it for the rest of the day. I won't have this thing lingering in my brain. You gotta go work out. You gotta get off the fucking internet. Go work out. Right? You love that birthday song. That was specifically for you. I went through a number of track song just to find the one that matched your tenor and your tone. Terry Catterley is here. Hello, Terry. Claire checking in from, I believe, Scotland, if I'm not mistaken. Hello, Claire. Jackie Delario. Starting a new job today. All right, Jackie. Congratulations. I hope that it's both profitable, abundant, and meaningful for you. Jay, yes, the phone is always listening, right? I mean, it was like, that was freaking weird. Terry Marine, what's going on, Terry? And Vince is here. Vince Duggar, hi, Vince. My man Ryan checking in. Miko checking in. Lunchbox 81. Boy, we got a crowd here today, let me tell you. After CV, I went less to the gym. Now I have one at my house. Not good. Staying healthy. Getting good. I think a home gym, if you have the space for it, is ideal. It's right there. You have no fucking excuses to not go to the gym if you have it in your home. Just saying. Debisu representing Europe as well. Hi, Debisu. Hope your day is going well. Julia Payne checking in from New Zealand. We got an international crew. If I could play a song right now, it'd be International Feel by Todd Rundgren. That would be a good song. All right, why don't we get into the weather? And have a really interesting start of the day. We've been doing the Astro Weather for over a year now. And I was waiting for one of those moments where I had to make a choice with the star of the day. And it was like, oh, I've done that person already. And that was yesterday. And we looked at Mel Gibson's chart. And one of the other options yesterday was Marie-Louise von France, who was initially Carl Jung's secretary, but became a absolutely gifted therapist in the Jungian mode unto herself. And we had done her chart, right? That chart had been tackled. So we're on to new people. Let me just check my mic setting here. I'm going to do this. This is going to be better, hopefully. It never remembers my mic setting. Okay, let's do this. Let's get into the weather. All right. Astro Weather. We got that moon creeping up on the south node. Who is going to emerge from your past? That's how I see this moon in Libra. And it's not just people, but it's also memories. Every time we have this moon sweeping across that south node, it tends to be very sentimental in a lot of ways, like how things were, how things used to be. I would think that this would be, especially with this, the South Node in Libra, and I've been noticing this just in general as a trend, has been impacting Gen Xers a lot. Like I've been seeing a lot of like Gen X nostalgia on various websites, message boards, Twitter, and for most Gen Xers, and I think we could kind of agree that Gen X starts around 67, 68. right? They're kind of the first wave, even though I believe Pluto is still in Virgo at that time. And it's late Virgo. Of course, we have the Pluto-Uranus conjunction. And it doesn't really flip to about 1970, right? That's when Pluto goes into Libra. So I think we have first wave Gen X around 68. Let's call it 68, 69. And then 70, we're full blown into Pluto and Libra. And so the South Node would be the evocation of the memory of Gen X. Like now they're looking back, they're looking back at their time, and they're looking back on what their life was like. I've been seeing so much of this, and a lot of kind of wistful memories. And Gen X is that last generation, like they're the outpost between the old world and the new world, right? I think of the millennials as being the new world, and Gen X is the bridge between the old and the new, because Gen X has memories, of like limited TV, where you had maybe the three major networks, maybe about three local channels, one of which was usually PBS, and then you had the very unusual world of UHF, and you had antennas and things like that. So there's a lot of Gen X kind of remembers that. Like if you're coming in at 68, 69, part of your reality, the later generations of Gen X, which begin to show up, like 74, 75, 76, by the time they hit, 5, 6 years old, they're starting to deal with cable TV, right? So Gen X is the bridge between the old world, the analog world, and the digital world. And they're the first generation to, I think, really start to pick up on video games, although the millennials really are kind of born into the video game world in a more direct way, but that's a different story. So there's a lot of kind of sentimentality with this moon coming over the South Node, but it also, to me, represents the emergence of people from the past. So keep an eye on that with your life. And what's I think challenging is that the sun squares the moon today, and we saw this yesterday as well. And it does have this effect of where are you now, right? Like the sun in Capricorn is where are you now, and the moon is where you've been, and the two are kind of at odds. They're kind of at odds, and it's amazing how much baggage we all carry, and how much we keep our story alive, right? And no matter what that story is, we keep it alive, and so it becomes part of our daily narrative, whether we're conscious of it or not. So today's one of those days, and it did start with yesterday as well, but today's one of those days where it's like, okay, well, what do I need from my past? And Capricorn's merciless. It's like, get rid of it, get rid of it, get rid of it. And the moon wants to hold on here. So it's not necessarily bad or in conflict. You just have to be aware of it, right? And again, as it relates to people that emerge from your past, it might be a bit shocking, and you may realize that, with Capricorn, which is usually the case, you'll have moved on. You're not the same person. They're not the same people, although you may share memories. So this is a very interesting transit today, especially as we move a little bit later into the day when the moon really does come into that conjunction with the South Node. Venus has clearly established itself in Sagittarius, and a lot of the qualities that we talked about Venus yesterday are still in play for today, which is that Venus Saturn square and being able to be committed and to work on what I would call fair and sovereign emotional values in relationship. Right? Venus in Sagittarius wants honesty above anything else. Right? If you have Venus and Sag in your chart, I guarantee you, honesty is something that you pride yourself on, or at least in relationships, that should be the bottom line. It should be the bottom line for most relationships. But Venus and Sag, if they don't have it, boy, it's a real kind of undertow, right? So we know that this is one of the qualities with Venus in Sagittarius, and Saturn here will will be relentless in some ways in this square to get to the bottom of it. When I think of the whole Epstein thing, right? I mean, we're dealing with legalities. Apparently, they've dumped a bunch of documents. Some names are being released, some are redacted. There's a lot of redaction in the statement of the trial, right? But Venus in Sagittarius is legal standing too. Venus is the ruler of Libra, which rules adjudication, law. Here we go. There's the moon conjuncted with the South Node, and again, we could look at this from the Epstein lens. This the tide of the past, washing ashore to the present, and so I think this is it from that perspective. This Venus Saturn square is mildly interesting because whatever you think of the Epstein affair, whether it's distraction, which in most cases it is, but there are some threads there that are interesting, right? Like one of the pieces in there has to do with Alan Dershowitz. And Dershowitz has been one of the puppet masters of the 20th and 21st century. And there can be no denying his presence in the Epstein affair from start to finish, even to the point where and this is the odd part, right? Because he worked with Mike Cernovich to kind of reopen this thing with Epstein in conjunction with the Miami Times Herald, I think. And that was what brought the case, because Epstein had been exonerated, right? Alex Acosta, who worked under Trump, but I think at that time, I'm not sure if he was the Attorney General of Florida or he was actually in with the Trump administration, but they kind of brushed the whole Epstein thing aside. And it was with Cernovich and Dershowitz where it came up again. Now, I believe that Alan Dershowitz got involved because he wanted to control everything from that point forward, right? He was willing to go on the offensive against Epstein because he's kind of up to his third eye in that world, right? Like it's just even if you just take his answers at face value. Well, like I was always on those planes with my grandkids. It's like it doesn't really matter, right? You were deeply involved with this man, and then all of a sudden, you want to control the narrative by essentially trying him again, and then he winds up in jail, right? I mean, it is the Cernovich Dershowitz effort, and Dershowitz is clearly doing this so he can manage the entire thing. Why? Because my estimation, my opinion, is that he's deeply involved. And one of the things that has been rumored for a long time is that he has the videos called insurance. So when we see this Venus Saturn square, we might think that, well, yeah, it's a distraction, and the Democrats and the Republicans are going to go at it, and because names from both parties and groups are on this list, right? But that's not that is not the Gordian knot. The Gordian knot is Dershowitz. And so if you stay with the Venus Saturn square long enough, people will get to the bottom of this. And really, Dershowitz is like the thread that if you pull on it and tug on it, there's all these things that are associated with Alan Dershowitz beyond Epstein. Things like creating anti-hate speech laws, right? And, remember during the pandemic, Dershowitz was the guy that basically said, you would have to take a shot, and there's no way it would stay. Your medical freedom would stand up, even with the Supreme Court. This is what he was talking about. And this guy is out there running around right now. And he shows no signs of tapping out or retiring. So I'm not saying to make this a personal witch hunt with Alan Dershowitz, but if you look at this Venus-Saturn square, and looking at it from the Epstein perspective, remember now, Epstein was a Pisces. And I think he was a very early Pisces, maybe like 0 degrees or 1 degree or something like that. And then there's Saturn, right? It's really on, Epstein's sun. He's got that Venus-Mars conjunction, that strange Venus-Mars conjunction in Aquarius, which made him very kind of unisexual. So it's interesting that Saturn would be in conjunction with Epstein's sun, right? And we have this Venus square. So from that perspective, I think it's interesting. And it's not necessarily, ooh, this person's bad because they were on the plane or on the list. But there are some key figures in there who had involvement in a way that do need to be discussed. And it goes beyond just sleeping with a 15-year-old girl. Just saying, okay? That's the bigger picture. We got Mars still hanging out. The final gasps of Mars in Sagittarius. And because of the degree here, now we got this sextile with Saturn. And this is a really good sextile for, it's like the prelude for Mars entering Capricorn, Saturn, the ruling sign, right, of Capricorn, and it's going to move into Capricorn. And this is a great time to get to work, right? I'm doing my best to use the Gregorian New Year energy to do that in my own life. Like there are times, where I would get up and I would just program the show. I'd get up at like maybe 6:30, program the show, and then bang, right, do the show. But I'm working on doing everything the night before. And last night I was working on it, and the power went out my computer. By that time, I was like, okay, I've got most of it done. Let me just go to sleep. But this is what I'm talking about, right? So take advantage of this. When Mars hits that 0 degree, it's like, that 0 degree is really programmable. All the energy is there when, Mars enters that sign, and it's going to enter it and then click in with that Saturn sextile. You could take great advantage of this by setting up new patterns, new rituals, right? New structure, new order, new discipline. Like, take advantage of it. It's a great time to do it, and that's what I'm attempting to do here, right? And ride this wave for the rest of the year. Ride the tail of the dragon. We're in the year of the dragon. It's about managing the awesome energy of the dragon, right? And in Chinese astrology, the dragon is ruled by Aries, and of course, Mars is the ruler of Aries. So we look at it from an organizational perspective with Mars and Capricorn: discipline, structure, order. And the sextile with Saturn is, anything with a sextile, if you make the effort pays off. Like, a sextile is an invitation. It's an entreaty to activate something, right? Trines are like, just move into it, you're good. Sextiles, if you want to get the most out of them, you have to move into them and activate them, right? Sun trine Uranus, and we talked about this yesterday again, and how there's this really interesting movement towards innovation and kind of a new grasp on technology. It's funny, I wanted to do another AI image. So I was on these AI generators last night, which is why my power went up, my computer ultimately. Because I was so obsessed with doing this image, I realized it wasn't plugged in. And whatever you think of AI, right, I will tell you that every time I put Jeffrey Epstein into the description for AI, none of the machines recognized it, or that was even a banned word. So maybe, there's a little bit of conscience in AI, but it didn't stop me, right, from trying to create an interesting image. So this is what I'm talking about with the Sun Uranus trine. Like, how can you? This is a great time. You can set new habits, new patterns, new standards, new discipline, and you can innovate. And none of those things are that different. It's not like you're squaring up with this stuff, right? It's just there. It's available. So take advantage of it. We still have some of the squares going on with Neptune, right? And the from a collective perspective, and we'll bring it back to, since Epstein is like, front and center with everything right now. There's going to be a lot of deception. There's going to be a lot of lies. There's going to be a lot of massaging of the truth. Some people are going to just disappear. Like, I don't think Bill Clinton's going to be visible. Hillary Clinton, I think she deleted a lot of her social media accounts because she knows what's coming. And the idea here, like, we'll look at Mercury, especially now that it's direct, with, again, Mars kind of in front of it, that this is the fog cutter with the Neptune square. Like, the Neptune square, you're going to encounter illusion. You're going to encounter deception. You're going to encounter sort of, and even in your own personal life, right? Like, not getting straight answers. Well, persist on getting those straight answers. Persist on understanding what you believe to be true, right? I mean, that's the best thing that you can get out of these squares. And especially when they're, when Mercury and Mars are in a fire sign, there's, you can burn through the illusion in some ways. Now, you don't want to burn, I mean, I don't know, maybe you do, but you can burn too hot, right? And all of a sudden, everybody in your life is a liar, or living in a lie, or living with illusion. And then that puts you in a pretty lonely fucking place. And every now and then you have to have that. So be careful how hot your flame burns. But when it comes to getting to the bottom of something and getting answers that you need, right, go into the square, right, go into it and sort through the half truths, or the illusions, or the things that don't make sense. Like it's one of those things where, let's say you ask a pertinent question, and then somebody gives you an answer that is not factually correct, but sounds like it might be, and somewhere that that's not true. Some people will just say, "Oh, fuck it," they'll know that it's not true. Like, you just know these things. If you understand resonance, you just know it. But it'd be like, I'm not going to let you off the hook on this. Prove that to me. Or what do you mean by that? Right? Like, that's kind of the next step, or the next level. Because you'll encounter this. You'll encounter people giving you half truths, or half answers that sound mostly correct, but they won't be. And it's going to be up to you to understand whether or not you want to pursue that, and what it's worth to you, right? And for some people, it can be worth a lot. For other people, it might be, you know what? I got a different hill to meet this person on, or this subject. It's up to you, right? It's up to you. What else? What else? What else? What else? You know what? I do like the moon in opposition with Chiron. We already talked about the square and the emergence of feelings and people from the past. And I would think that some of that would also have to do with dealing with wounded or broken people, right? Like, that is part of the deal. And be like, oh, wow. And if, like, this is the interesting part. If you encounter somebody like that, and in the past, and we already talked about maybe the fondness or the nostalgic memory, right? But if you encounter somebody who did you wrong at some point with this Chiron moon opposition, it might be really clear that this is a damaged person. And you can see more clearly how damaged they are. Whereas at the time, you may not have seen it, or at the time, you might have been the person that was damaged, right? This is what happens with this Chiron moon opposition. So what are you going to do, right? What are you going to do with it? How do you respond? Well, the energy resolves itself quickly with that Sun Uranus trine, and Sun Jupiter trine. Jupiter is beneficent, right? Jupiter is kind of larger than life. Rise above it. It'll be interesting to see if anybody encounters people that need a helping hand monetarily. I think that could be a big part of this day. And maybe part of what you do, and I'm not saying that you have to do this, but maybe part of what you do in order to settle the past is to help somebody out financially, no strings attached. Whatever that is, like here's $100, go buy some groceries, or here's $50, put it in your tank, or some people can have the wherewithal and the means to really help, right? Like, let me pay for your rent this month. I mean, that would be like really big for a lot of people. So there's something here about that where it's kind of, and it really is kind of a moral choice, right? Because depending on, and again, if what I'm reading here is true, and the past emerges, and there's some charge around it, Capricorn is one of those signs that is not very sentimental, and there could be a whole tough shit attitude around it, but you may encounter this person in such a way where their vulnerability outweighs the fact that there may have been some pain or damage done in the past. And it might be a way to really heal part of your past as well. And just say, look, I don't often do this, but let me get this for you. Right. So that's kind of in the air. And you can, and with Uranus trining the sun, things accelerate very quickly. And they move very quickly. And even Venus kind of supports that, right? We got that Venus trine coming in with Chiron, and Venus and Sag is kind of larger than life and bigger and, very generous in a lot of ways. So I think this is a very interesting time. And clearly there's some challenge in the air, but there's some very fascinating outcomes where there's more options and I'll use the P word, power, available to you than you think. It's a good way to start the year. All right. Let me get into our star of the day. And this one was kind of fun. Now, I know a lot of you out there are not big into sports, but I had to do this one. And the way that I set this up is pretty cool. All right, let me go to stop share, and I'll throw up the banner here. We'll do the whoop. I don't want that. I want that. I want to get rid of that. That's the guide. Okay, let's do a screen share, and we'll do the True Hemp Science star of the day. Now, remember, last year it was Marie-Louise von France, and this year it's somebody from France. It's Victor Wembanyama, and so, all right, Victor Wembanyama is a unicorn. He's 7'4", and he plays the game like somebody who is 6'4", meaning he can dribble, he can pass, he can block shots. He has the potential of perhaps being the greatest basketball player of all time. And he's really young, really, really young. He was drafted in the first round of the NBA draft last year by the San Antonio Spurs. So what I did here is I looked at his birth chart, his relocation chart, and then this other chart, which is possible. So Wemby's a Gemini, right? Rising with the moon on the ascendant. It's kind of interesting. Somebody asked him about, I think they asked him about the movie on Netflix, the Obama movie. And he said, yeah, it looks kind of dystopian. Yeah, I'm really not that into dystopia. Like, that was a great answer, a surprising answer. And I think, having the moon on the ascendant is, first of all, there's a high degree of sensitivity, and I don't care what sign it's in. There's a high degree of sensitivity. And, when he was asked a question, right, he was thoughtful about it, which again, to me, is very kind of moon Gemini on the ascendant. And he provided an answer that I think a lot of people weren't prepared for. And he's got Venus and Neptune on his midheaven, right? Neptune in the ninth house. And usually when you have a ninth house planet, it indicates that you're going to encounter a period of your life where you will probably leave your country of origin, which is what he's done, right? He was born in France, and now he's playing in San Antonio. And Neptune here is actually really profound. Like, this guy is more than a basketball player. He's way more than a basketball player. I mean, at some point through his various travels and journeys, he's going to kind of emerge as a bit of a mystic, right? And I don't want to put too much pressure on him, but there's kind of a prophetic quality to Neptune here on the midheaven. And he's got Venus here as well. So, he's very popular, right? He's become one of the young faces of the NBA. Now, what's interesting here is that the coach that drafted him is this guy, Greg Popovich, whom I can't fucking stand. And somewhere up here, I didn't do Popovich, but Popovich is an Aquarian, right? So his sun is sitting up here on his midheaven. And, that's when somebody's sun sits on your midheaven, they control your destiny, right? They have a huge influence. Now, he may wind up being a good influence. Personally, I don't like him, but he may wind up being a good influence, especially if there's a strong relationship with his sun and Venus. They may wind up getting along, right? Wembanyama has Mars and Aries. So even though he has on the cardinal points, he has the feminine energy of the moon and is sensitive emotionally and mentally, right? And he's got Neptune on the midheaven, which, again, for people that like to project onto sports figures or celebrities, Neptune plays a huge role. And Venus is, again, feminine and sort of popular, right? You would think that, maybe he's, kind of flaky or soft, but not with Mars and Aries. And he's got it in the 11th house, right? Which is all about group effort and team. This guy needs to lead his team, right? Turn this guy loose. Sun in the 8th house in Capricorn. He's got Mercury in Capricorn. He's got all these planets in Sag over here. And Jupiter in Virgo and trying his sun, right? And trying Chiron. So, he expands. And staying healthy, I think, is going to be an interesting issue for him. And Saturn in the 2nd house, he's going to work hard for whatever it is, right? He's got that square with Mars. So I think he's going to run into problems with Popovich, right? With the Mars-Saturn square, unless the authority establishes itself in a way that you respect it, you're going to run into problems. And I would say that even though he has this, kind of universally liked sort of vibe in the rest of the world, I think he's got some growing to do in understanding the nature and force of his will. Okay, so I relocated his chart to San Antonio. And I don't think it's a very good chart. He's got the sun in the 12th house, and he has Chiron. He's like a fish out of fucking water in San Antonio. I can tell you that right now. With Chiron on the ascendant, it's like, what am I doing here? It's like he's washed ashore on an alien land. He's like the man who fell to earth. But he won't get any recognition with the sun in the 12th. And I know that there's this commonly held belief in astrology that people that have a 12th house sun really want to be seen. And I think that there's some truth to that. But it's like he's just going to get buried in San Antonio. He does have Mars here in the 3rd house. It's going to result in restlessness. He's going to be restless. And I like Mars in the 3rd house if you're playing a sport, right? Because it accentuates power, speed, all those things. But again, now we're getting into the nitty gritty of that square, right? And again, one of the things that Greg Popovich has done is that he's decided to tank again, right? They tank. Tank means that you lose games purposefully. This guy's a once-in-a-lifetime generational talent. And he has not surrounded him with players that could take it, like they should be competing now. And again, I'm talking sports talk here, but there's this guy, Jeremy Sohan, who's playing point guard. He's not a point guard. This guy needs a real point guard to get him the ball and let him score 30 points a game, get 10 rebounds a game, get 7, 8, 9 assists a game, turn this dude loose, right? But for whatever reason, Popovich doesn't want to do that. And I guess he wants to tank again so he can get another high-level, high-quality young player in the first few picks of the draft. And I don't think it's going to go well, right? In the relocation chart, I don't think San Antonio is his ultimate destination. So he needs to move west, right? So again, we're relocating the chart here. And you put him in San Francisco, Pluto on the ascendant, and he becomes a transcendent player. And you can do that for any of the West Coast teams. Portland, San Francisco, the 2 LA teams, and sun in the 1st house. Phoenix might even be better because it's a little further east, gets the sun closer to the ascendant. But even here, right, Jupiter's in the 9th house. It's in its own house. And you got that Sun-Jupiter trine, and look at that, 1st to the 9th. Man, that's expansion. And again, with Libra on the midheaven, he'd still be very well liked. And he might even meet somebody with Saturn in the 7th house. I just don't think this thing in San Antonio is going to work out. So the reason I did this, right, is to show you, sort of these options around relocation and how relocation works. Hell, you can even get into Utah. That'd be further west. And that sun be much closer to the ascendant, right? So anywhere Utah west is better. And I would say Arizona, Portland, Phoenix, Portland, San Francisco, the 2 LA teams. This is where this guy should play. Without a doubt. Now, you could theoretically move him to the East Coast, which would put his sun up in the 10th house, which could be better. Anywhere but here, I mean, this is ridiculous. I guess maybe his sun would be what? It'd be somewhere over here, 11th house, but not the 12th house.
And I think even with Capricorn rising, he could have, especially with Chiron here, trouble with his knees. He could be injury prone. Get him out of San Antonio. Get him out. Go west, young man. Anyway, this is your True Hemp Science star of the day, the once in a lifetime generational talent. Seems like a really fine young dude, Victor Wembanyama. And that's brought to you by True Hemp Science. And all you got to do is spend $100 or more at True Hemp Science. Type in 15MINS, 15MINS, and you get free goodies with your order. It's such a great deal. 150 or more, get you free shipping. And of course, there's always a 30-day money-back guarantee. There you go. All right, I'm out of here. I got to go over to 15 minutes. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your presence, your support. Please like the channel. Make sure you're still subscribed because you get unsubscribed. This is just how the game works. And we're getting real close to 14,000. I'd like to get to 14,000 by the end of the year. All right. Thank you all for being here. Have a blessed day. Come join us over on 15 minutes. Bye for now.